God-ternal Kefnet is a new mono-blue legendary creature from War of the Spark, and you're currently watching a competitive EDH deck tech video about him, because this commander have the potential of performing a 1.5 card combo with Scroll Rack. Because this is how Kefnet reads. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card and you may cast the copy. The copy costs 2 less to cast. So if the first card that you draw for turn is, for example, Time Warp, target player takes an extra turn. You will get a trigger to reveal it and cast the copy for 2 less, so paying 3 mana to take an extra turn and Time Warp goes into your hand. Then you activate Scroll Rack by paying 1 mana and exiling 1 card only, Time Warp. Now you draw a card and you put Time Warp back on top of your deck. And in your next turn that you gain from the extra turn from Time Warp copy, you will draw Time Warp again. And from this point you have infinite turns. And because we're never actually casting the original, we're only casting copies of the extra turn spells, it will even function with extra turns that goes into exile. For example, part of the Watery Veil that will go into exile, part of the Resolve, and Khan's Temporal Sundering that will also go into exile in part of Resolve. Now the copy will go into exile anyway, but the original card will just go from top of your deck to your hand back to top of your deck infinitely. So Kefnet is a combo piece in the command zone, but he is also a card draw effect in the command zone, because whenever you draw into, let's say, Brainstorm, Ponder, or maybe Serum Vision or something of that sort, you get a copy of that Ponder that you cast, and the original Ponder goes into your hand that you could also cast. So he's performing a card draw function, or let's say you cast spells that will perform this card draw production. Now do remember that the card that you top deck into and make a copy of will have a cost reduction of 2 generic. That means that Impulse will only cost 1 mana, Fact or Fiction will cost 2 mana, and I decided to look out for some really strange and fringe blue cantrips and found Artificer's Epiphany that will also only cost 1 mana. And I definitely think that we will have an artifact in play so we don't have to discard a card, so that becomes a 1 blue mana, draw 2 cards, and that is actually quite good. So I definitely think that this Kefnet God-ternal has a card draw effect on him. But this blue bird god has some more tricks up its sleeve, because the trigger comes from the first card you draw each turn, not only your turn. So for example, if you have a Sensei's Divining Top, which you will probably have in a deck like this, you might have some knowledge about what is on top of your deck. And if you know that a negate is on top of your deck, you can tap Sensei's Divining Top in instant speed during an opponent's turn, put top on top of your deck, reveal the first card you draw this turn, which is negate, make a copy of negate and cast it for only 1 blue mana, and then the original negate goes into your hand. And if an opponent has more interaction against you, then you have the original negate as well, besides the copy that you gained through this trick. Oh yeah, by the way, if we're going to be playing Sensei's Divining Top, Scroll Rack and probably Brainstorm, I think that we should just throw in Counterbalance. Now Counterbalance is an enchantment, a stacks enchantment of some sort. Well, I would actually like to call it more of a psychological warfare enchantment, because your opponents will get a bit annoyed when this thing is in play and think about what the hell they are actually going to do. Because when an opponent casts a spell, you get a trigger from Counterbalance, and you can answer that trigger by activating Scroll Rack. And if you have a card inside your hand with the exact same CMC cost of what that opponent is casting, you may put that card on top of your deck and draw a new card with Scroll Rack, and then the Counterbalance trigger resolves, you flip into that card and you counter that spell, whatever it is that the opponent is doing. And you can do the almost same thing with Sensei's Divining Top, as long as you're holding 3 cards on top of your library that you could control and bring forth whenever you need to deal with something through Counterbalance. So all that we really need is to find a 1 artifact 2 mana cost scroll rack from our deck to somehow win the game. The extra turns are so many that we're most likely going to find at least one of them. Now blue is actually quite decent and okay at tutoring for artifacts. Fabricate could do this, Whir of Invention is probably the best one, instant speed tutor that smashes that artifact into play. Inventor's Fair is a land that can searches for an artifact, and Tesseret the Seeker, 5 mana tutor planeswalker, that's expensive. But look at this, Fabricate costs 3 mana, Scroll Rack costs 2 mana, a grand total of 5, which is equal to Tesseret the Seeker that smashes in Scroll Rack into play. But we have some more tutors. Long-term plans is a tutor. It's not the best tutor, it's not really that good actually. But it is a tutor, it will do the job. Then we have Muddle the Mixture, which is a transmute card. You could cast it to counter an instant or sorcery for 2 blue mana, that is good. But you could also discard it for 3 mana and search your deck for a card on exactly 2 converted mana cost, like Scroll Rack. So this is a perfect tutor for this deck. So I think this is a good opportunity to compare the bird god Kefnet Eternal to the other mono blue commanders and talk a little bit about mono blue in general. So we have Baral, Teferi and Memnarch, and there are some other mono blue commanders, but these are some of the more competitive, or well, Memnarch is maybe something more of a semi-competitive mono blue commander. 7 mana is quite a lot. However, if you gain infinite mana, you win the game with Memnarch. Then again, if you want to play a really expensive commander, that deck have to be really good. And to make a really good deck, you kind of want to have more colors. So that is putting Memnarch in a more semi-competitive position, being that expensive. Teferi, on the other hand, is also quite expensive. 6 mana is definitely a lot. However, he has a 1-card combo with Chain Veil. So that is definitely a solid function working deck with Teferi. Then you have Baral on 2 mana, one of the more cheap and fast mono blue commanders. You're getting him out on turn 2 consistently, or maybe even turn 1. And then he's starting to perform value for you in terms of reducing the casting costs of instants and sorceries by also looting, drawing cards and then discarding cards. Alright, so let's actually compare Kefnet with Teferi and then Baral. So first up, Teferi costs 6 mana, while Kefnet costs 4 mana, so that is a plus for Kefnet. Now Teferi has a 1-card combo, while Kefnet is a 1.5 card combo, so that is a plus for Teferi. However, the difference between a 1.5 card combo and a 1 card combo isn't that huge. We still play 2 card combos in most cEDH decks, so I think a 1.5 card combo is fine. I will also like to add in that you're probably going to be keeping your Kefnet alive. I believe Kefnet is more resilient compared to Teferi. It's really easy to kill Teferi as the Teferi commander because Teferi never really have blockers. So you cast your Teferi just because you have nothing better to do and hopefully draw into something, you activate his +1 ability. Just hoping to draw something because you're in a really bad position. And then you pass turn, and your opponents are likely going to attack and kill Teferi, and that is quite bad. While Kefnet is a 4/5 flying creature, and let's actually read Kefnet's secondary ability. When god-ternal Kefnet dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library third from the top. That means you have the option here to put this creature back to the command zone and casting it later for 6 mana. But you could also put it third from the top and then cast it for its normal 4 mana. If an opponent would shuffle your deck, that means that god-ternal Kefnet would end up anywhere within inside your deck and you could potentially lose this commander, and that's really bad. But they're very seldom that your opponents are shuffling your deck, so you could actually consider this a way of getting your Kefnet back for a cheaper cost. So that is making Kefnet a little bit more resilient compared to other commanders. Now, being a more resilient commander, a commander that is probably going to be sticking on the board state, means that you're going to use Kefnet's ability a little bit or more often during the gameplay. And that means that you could get those card draw effects from Kefnet. You can't really get that from Teferi. Teferi deck actually needs to be really good and able to play without Teferi and his Chain Veil. I think that's a big upside for Kefnet. You actually get to keep your commander and use that ability over and, well, if you're lucky to top deck an instant or sorcery, that is. So let's compare Kefnet with Baral. Now Baral is actually great. 2 mana cost commander is amazing. Reducing the casting cost of instants or sorceries, that is great. Drawing a card and then discarding a card whenever you counter something is also amazing. That is somewhat a card draw effect. You could build a deck around that effect to make it into a card draw effect. And this is where Kefnet is going to shine a little bit more compared to Baral, because Baral actually has a huge problem. He is not a combo piece in the command zone. He is basically just a ramp and card draw effect in the command zone, while Kefnet is something of the middle ground between Baral and Teferi, both a combo piece in the command zone, weaker than Teferi, and a card drawing effect in the command zone, weaker than Baral. So if you're sitting there and asking yourself if you should be playing Teferi or Kefnet, the answer is quite simple. If you're looking for a deck that is really fast and consistent, then Teferi might be the option. While if you're looking for a deck that is more resilient and has more backup, then Kefnet might be the option. In the end, the Kefnet deck and the Teferi deck will pretty much look quite similar. There will be some cards in their deck that the other deck doesn't have. So the decks will be different, but they will still be quite similar. They will be pretty much mono blue. And let's actually talk about that mono blue stuff. Let's actually look at Baral's usual combo. So previously in this video I did talk a lot about Sensei's Divining Top, how Kefnet could utilize that card to a great extent. It's a good card in general for a Kefnet deck. And there is a free card combo that usually Baral plays that utilizes Sensei's Divining Top. Now you need Future Sight that will let you cast the top card of your deck. That means that you could buy 1 mana, cast Sensei's Divining Top. And then you have Ethereum Sculptor. Now there are other versions of Ethereum Sculptor, but it's usually the best one. For only 2 mana, all your artifact spells costs 1 less. Now this means that you cast Sensei's Divining Top from the top of your deck for 0 mana. And then you activate Sensei's Divining Top and draw a card and put the top back on top of your deck. And then you have Future Sight and Ethereum Sculptor and just put it back into play. Draw your entire deck. Great. Now this is actually a little bit of a janky combo, but in the end all the free cards are decent and quite okay. Ethereum Sculptor is a good ramp card for a heavy artifact deck, and this could definitely be a heavy artifact deck. And Future Sight's a really expensive, grindy mono blue card. Free blue mana is really expensive, but in a mono blue deck, free blue mana is no problem. The 5 mana, however, is a big problem. That is a lot of mana. But if you want to have a more grindy deck, a deck that can go for a long distance, and having more card draw effects in it, then Future Sight is definitely a card to consider for a mono blue deck. Now I believe that Kefnet could be built in a lot of varieties of ways, and in the description below of this video I will share a link to my tapped out page of how I would put together god-ternal Kefnet. Now I also want to mention that Teferi is a really old deck. We've seen Teferi Chainveil in cEDH for a lot of years, and that means that we know just how good that commander is. And I'm not sitting here and saying that Kefnet is stronger than Teferi, or Teferi is stronger than Kefnet. That is not my case at all. My case is showcasing Kefnet's abilities and possibilities. And with experience, this is a really new and young commander, we will see just how good and strong Kefnet is proving to be. And with that, this video is actually over. Thank you so much for watching and take care guys. I will see you in the next deck tech video.